Welcome to No Broken Legs Podcast, Week 12 NFL Podcast. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me as always, Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you?
Man, I'm feeling funky like a monkey, bud, ready to pick a bunch of football games that hopefully we get to watch. And a couple of them I don't want to watch or pick, but we got to because that's what's on the schedule. So let's get into it, man.
Yeah, and we started Week 12 with what I saw as two pretty easy wins for bettors. Yeah. I liked Houston and Washington. I know you did too. Any thoughts on what we saw play out on Thanksgiving?
Not really. I think it's just, we both were kind of wrong about Houston this year. We both thought they were undervalued. But Deshaun Watson has got to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. J.J. Watt finally made a real impact the last 2 weeks that has kind of got the defense not good by any means, but serviceable enough to win games where Deshaun Watson is the quarterback for your team. I would have thought it would have been the loss to the Panthers, but apparently getting blown out, getting destroyed by Deshaun Watson on national TV is what it took to get Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn fired. And then the Washington game, I definitely picked Washington. They had just two gutsy calls on fourth downs that killed them because it was actually a close game, but Washington's front five is really destructive, and Antonio Gibson is probably going to be a first-round draft pick in fantasy drafts next year.
What was Mike McCarthy doing on that fake punt?
Well, from everything I've researched and read, he had no idea it was happening. That was all the call made by the special teams coach.
All right, that makes sense based on what we've seen in Dallas. Mike McCarthy has no control over the team, so of course that's something that a special team coach did.
Yep, I mean, you're down 6. Your defense has actually been playing pretty well for a quarter. It's 4th and 10, and you run a trick play that puts you 10 more yards behind where you need to go.
I just didn't understand the call there.
Yeah, but from everything I've read, it was completely John Fossil's call. He thought he saw something that would work, but Washington played it perfectly, and I think the Washington football team may be headed to the playoffs.
Yeah, they currently sit atop the AFC East. Houston is currently 10th in the AFC, hoping to keep their playoff hopes alive. Our first Sunday matchup sees the Buffalo Bills coming off their bye at home. Jimmy, they're favored by 5 against the Chargers. Which QB strikes first here, and what we hope is a series of great Allen Herbert games to come?
Well, I would say the quarterback that strikes first is the one who gets the ball first. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense in this game. Buffalo's defense hasn't been what it was last year, but I believe the Bills to be at least the top 3, top 5 team in the AFC. They've got to be able to beat the Chargers by a touchdown, so I'm taking the Bills.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills too. I think they're just better, and coming off the bye, this should be a spot where they get a win, stay ahead of Miami in the division.
Yep.
All right, our next game is our Browns are traveling to Jacksonville. Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett are out on the defensive side for Cleveland. Pretty much anyone who's been on the depth chart for the Jaguars secondary is also out. Browns are favored by 6.5. Can the Browns defense get enough stops to cover this, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think the Jaguars offense will cause enough stops for the Browns to win this game by a touchdown. I know Jacksonville's secondary is depleted, but I still think the Browns are going to focus on running the football. That's what they do best. I think that's what they'll continue to do. Chubb and Hunt looked really good. The line looked good. The defensive front played okay last week without Myles Garrett. You've got another game that this is new for us Browns fans. This is new territory. Winning football games you should win when you're in a playoff race. It's kind of crazy, but they can't lose this game. This would be a game to set back everything you've done right for the last 2 months. You cannot lose this football game. But Jacksonville just doesn't have the weapons. DJ Chark has been ruled out. I believe Gardner Minshew's coming back his first game back off of an injury. You have to win this football game. I think the defense will do just enough, and Baker should be able to control this game. The Browns should win this game fairly easily. I've got the Browns. I don't see how they don't win this game by a touchdown, so I got the Browns in this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Browns too. I think they continue their script of running the ball effectively, making passes when they need it, and coming up with just enough on defense. As you said, they're just poor all around. And this is a game the Browns should win. They should be able to ride that running game to victory.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, heading down I-71 South, we have the Bengals hosting the Giants. New York favored by 6, and Jimmy, I like the Giants as a lock for reasons I don't necessarily trust. Are you going to talk me out of this one?
No, not at all. This is one of those games I was talking about. We have bashed the NFC East horribly on this podcast, and I am picking the Giants as a road favorite, a 6-point road favorite, but without Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon, I don't see how the Bengals generate any offense.
Agreed.
The Giants have been looking okay. I don't think they look as okay as Washington does, but they've looked okay. Danny Dimes has had a couple moments here and there. He's not fumbling as much. He's not turning the ball over as much. Now, they have had some turmoil with their coaches. Joe Judge out there throwing hands with other coaches that are getting fired. So I don't know what that's going to look like. There's definitely Joe Judge is not. I don't know how I want to say it. It has not been a smooth transition to Joe Judge. It does not seem. But I don't see how you don't win this game by a touchdown. And if I'm a Giants fan or part of the front office, if you cannot beat this Bengals team by more than a touchdown, even on the road, you've got serious problems.
Yeah, Giants are 3-3 in their last 6, and they're coming off the bye. The Bengals season's over. This has to be a win for the Giants. And right now, everybody's in the NFC East, so you may as well.
Yeah.
All right, we have Tua back in as starter for the Miami Dolphins as they're playing the Jets. 7-point spread here, and Jimmy, I just don't care. I'm going with Miami as a lock. I reviewed their 24-0 smackdown of the Jets in Week 6, and that was all I needed to make this a lock.
I got no problem with that. If this ended up being a push and a touchdown, I probably wouldn't be surprised. I'm also taking the Dolphins. I want to believe in the Dolphins. So much of the national media wants to believe in the Dolphins. So you have to be able to smack the Jets around again. You can't smack them around once and not smack them around again. You have to be able to do it again. I think they bounced back after that piss-poor performance last week. This is a lock for me as well. The Dolphins should be able to handle this. Like I said, if somehow Joe Flacco did some stuff and if they were up 10 late, they cut it to 7, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a push. But the Jets will stay in the lead for Trevor Lawrence, and the Dolphins are still battling for that playoff spot.
Yes, they are, and one of the teams they're battling for that playoff spot is the Las Vegas Raiders, who are storming into Atlanta. Like we said, we're looking to keep pace in the playoff picture, and this is another game, Jimmy. I like Vegas as a lock, favored by 3.
Yeah, we're not having a lot of disagreements here. I completely agree with you. I don't have it as a lock, but it's pretty close as a lock to me. The Raiders played way better last week against the Chiefs than I expected them to. They're playing with a lot of attitude. Their defense is not good, but their offense is scoring points. They're moving the football. They're playing a bad football team. It doesn't look like Julio Jones is going to play, and Todd Gurley has been limited in practice. The Falcons' offense has been really bad this year when Julio hasn't been on the field. So the Raiders, I believe John Gruden, I don't think it'll be a letdown for them. I think you take that game against the Chiefs, and I think John Gruden is a kind of motivator that can use that as a look. This is the best team in the NFL, and we fucking had them, guys. We had them. We let them go, but we had them. Now let's go whoop the shit out of Atlanta, and I just see him having this team up for this game, and the Raiders handling this one pretty easily.
Yeah, you said the Raiders have some question marks on defense. You know who else has a lot of question marks on defense? the Atlanta Falcons. They're terrible on that side of the ball, and with the way Oakland's been playing offensively, they should be able to. This should be a pretty. If they're a playoff team, this is an easy win.
Yeah.
All right, we have Arizona traveling cross country to hopefully put the Patriots out of their misery for this season. It's a 1.5-point spread. I'm taking the Cardinals, but I got to be honest, I don't like this game as a better at all.
Really? I don't understand this line. And the public money keeps going on the Patriots. The line was at 2.5 yesterday, and it continues to move. I'm taking the Cardinals. I don't understand it. The Cardinals are definitely better than the Texans. They've got more weapons than the Texans have on both sides of the ball. I don't see how New England stays in this game on either side of the ball. This is just going to be a lost season for Belichick. I'm so interested already in seeing how he rebuilds and they come back next year. But this is a lock for me with the Cardinals, man. I think they just handle this game no problem.
Wow. Just rolling into Gillette and handing the Patriots their seventh loss of the season. I'd love to see it, man.
Yeah, I really have trouble seeing an outcome where that's not what happens. I mean, Stephon Gilmore might be able to lock up DeAndre Hopkins, but they have enough other weapons. Houston had no problem spreading the ball around, kind of showing a blueprint for that. I don't see how they lose this game. I really don't.
Yeah, and I think that's how Arizona wants to play. They want to spread it around, let Kyler Murray do some things, and running QBs do generally give Belichick some problems.
Yep. I mean, you can really see here as we're getting into the teeth of the season, we can just really see where all of those players that opted out for the season are just – you can only scheme up so much skill. At some point, you have to have the players, and he just doesn't have the players this year.
Yeah, and we've seen that as Cleveland Browns fans where we've had teams that just – half of those guys are – this isn't the case in New England, but we've seen plenty of Cleveland Browns teams where half of the guys are either reserves or practice squad guys, and when it comes down to it, they just can't – they're just not good enough.
Yep.
Another game I'm not a fan of as a bettor is Indianapolis, Tennessee. Indy's favored by 3. They took the first game 2 weeks ago, 34-17. I'm leaning Titans here. There was some weird stuff in that game. Tennessee's special teams really killed them. Do the Titans even the series here, or does Indy just keep rolling?
All right, so I'm going to preface this by saying these are two teams, we talk about it sometimes. These are two teams I still don't have a handle on. I still don't think either of these teams are any good. I still can't believe the Colts beat the Packers last week. I don't know what the hell Matt LaFleur was doing with his play calling in the second half. I'm just picking the Titans because I still refuse to believe the Colts are good.
It's a Phillip Rivers filibuster.
Yeah, in December, I refused to pick the team that has Phillip Rivers as a quarterback. I've been wrong, and I'm going to keep being wrong. I'm going to keep betting against the Colts. I believe this money line for the Titans is somewhere in the plus 155 range. So that's a bet I'll be making. But this is a huge game. Like, I've been wrong about these two teams all year, but this is a huge game. This is a huge game for division, for AFC playoff seeding. And it's a huge game in the fact that this is a strength of the offense of one team versus the strength of the defense for the other team. And then the Titans have no strengths on defense. Teams have tended to beat them by throwing the ball and running a little bit. But Jonathan Taylor has been ruled out due to COVID, so that limits what the Colts can do offensively. But this is a huge football game, and I'm just picking the Titans because I don't like the Colts. That's it. I cannot get a feel for either of these teams. Games I was sure they were going to win, I've been wrong on. Games I was sure they were going to lose, I've been wrong on. So I'm going with the Titans just for that reason.
If you were if you were one of the other playoff teams from the other divisions, which team in that division actually scares you the most between Indy, Tennessee, and Houston?
I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's just how I feel. I would rather play Indy, I think, than Houston or Tennessee, because Tennessee, Derrick Henry, Houston, Deshaun Watson. Especially in the playoffs, you've got more time to prepare. I know the Colts have a great run defense, but all the teams in the AFC in the playoffs, minus the Steelers, I do believe have dynamic offenses that are going to be able to beat the Colts. I'm not trusting Phil Rivers in the playoffs. We've seen this movie.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's the answer. It's who am I facing? Am I facing Phillip Rivers? Am I facing Ryan Tannehill? Or am I facing Deshaun Watson? And I don't want to face Deshaun Watson. I know they're not. I know they're not as good as those other two teams. They haven't shown that on the field. But I think as the season winds on, Houston's not going to make the playoffs. But they're going to be that team everybody talks about and says, man, if they could have just had their shit together at the beginning of the season.
I mean, it's like we talked about, man, if they just would have fired Bill O'Brien and all.
Yeah, that move is going to haunt them for years to come.
I mean, it really, the way their season ended last year, not making any kind of defensive moves to try to make someone other than Travis Kelce beat them in that playoff game, that should have been enough. But like I said, Indianapolis they don't impress me. Like, I felt the loss I felt like the Packers lost that game last week, not the Colts won that game. Matt LaFleur, for whatever reason in the second half, he quit going spread. He tried to run right up the middle, which is what the Colts stopped the best. I didn't understand it. But, I mean, both of these teams should be in the playoffs. But if I was a team, I'd much rather, especially as a wild card team, I would much rather go in and play Indy than have to go try to stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's sort of a secondary playoff game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got totally mixed up in my thoughts there. It's just, everything will kind of shake out. This will really go a long way in determining who wins the AFC South. And really, this is a game, as a Browns fan, we want to see Tennessee win. We've already got a win against Indianapolis in our pockets, so that would minimize that game against Tennessee a little bit in terms of the Browns needing it to win.
Yep, I completely agree.
Our next matchup is two teams that almost assuredly won't make the playoffs, but whoever loses this game is definitely out of the playoffs. The Vikings are hosting the Carolina Panthers. Vikes are favored by 3.5. I've liked the Panthers since about week 4 or 5. You've liked them since the beginning of the season. I'm taking the Panthers.
Yeah, I don't understand this line. I don't know how you lose to Dallas and then you're favored against a team that looked decent without their starting quarterback. I believe Teddy Bridgewater is back for this one. The money line on this one is a little over 100, so I think it was like plus 108 or plus 138 the last I looked at it, so I'll be making that bet as well. I don't understand this line. I mean, the Vikings appear they can only win if Dalvin Cook is special. Dalvin Cook is really good, but it's a lot to ask a running back to be special every single week, and that's what they're doing. And I think you just sell out against the run. I think that's just what you do. You say, well, if Kirk Cousins beats us by throwing bombs to Thielen and Justin Jefferson, okay, I'm going to stop Dalvin Cook. And then on the other side of the ball, Carolina's doing a great job just using all of their weapons, taking what defenses give them. Whoever's open, that's where the ball goes. So you can't really zero in on one thing. It might be DJ Moore. It might be Robbie Anderson. It might be Curtis Samuel. I love what they've been doing all year. I continue to love them. I do not understand why the Vikings are favored in this game. So give me the Panthers all day in this one.
So the Vikings won those 3 games in a row. Do you know who those 3 teams they beat were off the top of your head, Jimmy?
Oh, no. What? The Texans?
Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago. Yeah. What do those 3 teams have in common? They're divisional foes that Minnesota sees on a regular basis.
Yeah, so Mike Zimmer knows what they're doing.
Yeah, he was able to make adjustments against a common foe, but against everybody else, they've been abysmal. And this is another team that I thought would compete for the division, and they're a team. I've been the same with Indy and Tennessee as well. It just seems whenever I zig, they zag. I've never had a grip on them, but I like Carolina. I like what they're doing. I like what Rule's doing. Teddy Bridgewater is back this week. I think they win this game outright.
Yeah, I do too. I didn't understand this line. I mean, Dallas is a bottom 3 to 5 team in the league, and you lost to them. I mean, Dallas was in victory formation. Like, it wasn't a fluke play. Dallas was in victory formation against you, and then you get a team that's more on the rise than you are, and you're favored. I don't understand it, but I'll happily take this money line bet on Carolina. I don't see how Carolina loses this game. And it just depends. Can Dalvin Cook just be special? And it's just asking a lot of one player to be special every week when the other team knows that's what you have to do. It's just asking a lot.
Yeah, it really is. And speaking of asking a lot, Nick Mullins is leading a very banged-up San Francisco into L.A. for an in-division rumble with the Rams. The Rams are favored by 6.5, and I can't take this as a lock fast enough, Jimmy.
Oh, I agree. If this was 13.5, would you still take the Rams?
I would probably take this game if it was 20.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by Nick Mullins only getting 6.5 against the Rams. The people they just want to doubt my Rams. That's all. They just want to doubt them. They don't want to believe in it because it's not sexy Sean McVay anymore. It's not. Jared Goff is not going to have a game this year with 500 passing yards. They're not going to run 75 offensive plays. It's going to be slow, methodical, ugly, and they're going to win. And the defense is really good. Jalen Ramsey and the other corner are playing lights out, all pro football. Aaron Donald is getting the job done. The other guys on the line are playing well. The defense is really good. The offense, Sean McVay figured out how to just minimize Jared Goff's opportunities to lose football games for him. And that's what he's doing. And the Rams are going to win this game easy. I mean, the Niners have been beat up on both sides of the ball all year. They do not have enough on either side to stay in this football game. I agree. This is a lock for me as well. I don't see how the Rams don't dominate this football game.
Yeah, totally agree. The Taysom Hill era, Jimmy, continues in Denver. The Saints are favored by 6 here. The Broncos ate Tua up last week. Are they going to feast again on a kind of newish? Hill's he's not a rookie, but he's a newish starter.
Well, I had been calling for Sean Payton to let Taysom Hill be the quarterback for a while. And after watching that last week, I think I made a grave mistake. Apparently, unless he's throwing just kind of just bombish throws down the field, like if he's got to kind of sit in the pocket and try to read a defense and make a throw, it didn't look good. I'm taking the Broncos in this game. I don't feel great about it. I don't know, man. I don't know. The Saints, it's going to be wild watching this Taysom Hill experience. I don't understand how Sean McVay watched the tape of Taysom Hill last week and doesn't go to Jameis. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I know Jameis throws interceptions, but you don't have to have Jameis throw the ball 40 times. You can hand the ball off to Kamara and Latavius Murray and just throw the ball 20 times. Jameis will probably be okay. I don't understand it. The Broncos looked okay last week. You had talked about the Dolphins at some point were going to slow down. You didn't think it would be last week, but you saw it coming. And the Broncos really handled that game really well. I see them handling this game pretty well. I don't know if they'll win, but I am going to take them to cover.
Yeah, I think they're getting healthy on defense, and I think that Broncos defense is something to be feared when they can be healthy, or in the COVID season, mostly healthy is healthy. And I think they're good in that way. And I saw the same things you saw with Taysom. We have to see him do more than. It looks like all he can do is the Tim Tebow. He can throw a bomb downfield and he can put his head down and run with it. But can you run an offense that makes plays methodically down the field? I have to see it from him, and I think he's going to face a lot of pressure, and that's going to get him out of his rhythm.
Yeah, we pick every game on our podcast, which I love, but for betting purposes, this would be 1,000% stay away game for me.
Oh, yeah, you don't want any part of this. Maybe if you get an idea of how the game is playing out, you can jump on in the first half.
Yeah, that's true, too. I would give you that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, the week's most talked about game is Kansas City at Tampa Bay. Mahomes versus Brady. Chiefs are 3 points favorites. That seems just ridiculously low to me, Jimmy.
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand why we're talking about this game like it's a marquee game. I think Tennessee and Indianapolis will be a much more exciting football game. The Chiefs don't do a lot well on defense, but they can rush the quarterback and cover a little bit on the back end, which if you can do those two things, you can beat the Buccaneers. I don't believe the Buccaneers can do enough on defense to even slow down this amazing offense that the Chiefs have rolling right now. I don't get it. This is a lock for me with the Chiefs. I probably would have made this a lock if it was 9.5. Like, I don't really understand. I think to a point Vegas just doesn't want to admit how much better the Chiefs are than the other good teams in the NFL. Like, the Buccaneers are a pretty good team. I also think if the Buccaneers got one of those last wild card spots, I kind of think they would lose to Washington in a playoff game. Like, I think
That was a hot take from Nick Wright. It drew a lot of boos, but his thinking isn't wrong, and that front of Washington's been playing very well, and if you can get pressure on Tom Brady, we know that's how you beat him.
And much like you saw in a few games last year in the regular season and in the playoffs, the defense is having trouble keeping up the intensity when they're watching their quarterback not be willing to take a hit to complete a pass. Like, he's just not going to do it. He's not going to take a hit. He's going to throw the ball into the ground. He's going to throw it away. He's not going to take a hit. And you've got wide receivers that are made for getting down the field. That offensive line hasn't been as good as they thought. They've had some injuries, but I just don't see how the Chiefs don't roll in this game. I don't see how that doesn't happen.
Yeah, totally agree. Green Bay looks to all but end the NFC North or the NFC North race when they host the Chicago Bears. It's a 9-point spread. I like Green Bay, but the spread scares me.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bears because who the hell knows what to do with the Bears? I don't know. That's probably one of those 5 teams that I have not been able to get a handle on. If Green Bay won this game by 4 touchdowns, I would not be surprised. If they went on a 50-yard Mason Crosby field goal at the end, I wouldn't be surprised. So I'm taking the Bears. I think they might. I mean, their defense is actually playing really well right now. They just don't have any offense to put with it. So I'm taking the Bears for no real reason other than I don't know how to pick the Bears this year. I would imagine Green Bay wants to just get back out on the field. They're probably happy they're playing another good defense so they can put their game plan back into place and be like, okay, this is where we messed up last week. Shame on us. We shouldn't have made these mistakes against the Colts. Let's go and roll the Bears. Like, I imagine that's their mentality. But, man, it just really seems like if they could have got Will Fuller at the trade deadline, they should have. Like, I don't know. I imagine Houston was asking for a first. They should have gave it up because it just seems like right now, if you take Devontae Adams, if you can bracket him and limit his touches, they just don't have the skill guys to really make a difference. Aaron Jones still doesn't look fully healthy, but I think the Packers win, but I am going to take the Bears to cover. It seems like a lot of points for a division game like this.
And this may be a game to better play the money line with Green Bay in the last 20 games against Chicago, 17-3.
Wow.
Yeah. So I like the Green Bay money line, although it's not. You're not going to make a lot of money on it, but it seems like a good play this week. Rodgers owns the Bears.
Wow. That's a hell of a stat. Wow.
Yeah. Monday night, we get the Avian Bowl, Jimmy. The Eagles are hosting the Seahawks. Somehow the Seahawks are favored only by 5. I love them here. I'm taking them as a lock, and my notes on this game are very simple. Seattle good, Philadelphia bad.
That's it. I don't understand how this was another line that I'm just like, what? 5.5? Did they forget to put a 1 in front of that 5?
It's down to 5 now in most places.
Yeah, I don't understand. The Eagles looked so bad last week. I don't get it. Like, Miles Sanders is by far the best offensive player they have, and Doug Peterson. It's like, before the games start all week, Doug Peterson talks like he's going to fade Carson Wentz, and then as soon as the game starts, he's like, you know what I'm going to do? Let Carson Wentz throw the ball 50 times.
Well, it's been working so well this season, so why not continue doing it?
Yeah, I don't understand this line. This is a lock for me with Seattle as well. Philly can get after the quarterback a little bit, but that normally just leads to Russ throwing bombs to DK and Tyler. Chris Carson is back this week as well, so that'll make a big difference. I don't understand how anybody can think Philly's keeping this game to within a touchdown. This is an easy pick for me with Seattle.
Yeah, totally agree. And having Chris Carson back is really going to help them on the defensive side of the ball because it's going to keep them off the field, which I think that's the key for Seattle. I think they can make a lot of plays on defense because they have talent on that side of the ball, but they can't be expected to hold up for 35 minutes in a football game.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. I mean, they're not going to run. Philly isn't going to get to run enough plays offensively to let their defense be rested to do what you got to do to beat Seattle.
Exactly. So we have big week 12 here, fantasy football. Everybody's gearing up, Jimmy. Who are the plays to get people where they need to be?
Man, I love every piece of the Buffalo Chargers game. Man, if Herbert's still out there where you can stream him, or you've got him in a league where maybe you drafted somebody like Russ, and then but then again, Russ is down Philly, so never mind that. Don't do that. Start Russ. But I do love Justin Herbert. I love Keenan Allen, and then I love the other side. I love Josh Allen. I love Stephon Diggs. But I hate the Buffalo running backs because they can't decide what they want to do, and Josh Allen just keeps calling his own ticket on the goal line. Like they've just decided we want to throw the ball, we don't really want to run. I guess I would go Zach Moss over Devin Singletary, but I don't like either of those plays. I just love the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, the Keenan Allen, and the Justin Herbert. I love that. I'm excited to see the Browns passing offense get to play a game against a bad secondary with no horrible weather.
Yeah, it's not going to be pouring down rain and the wind whipping around, so they can actually try the forward pass again.
Yeah, like if you're in a 2 QB league, you're in a streamer league, you've been streaming quarterbacks. I think Baker is in a great spot this week. I really like what he has the opportunity to do. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I'm sorry, you got to start them. If you don't think Hunt can do enough, you're wrong. Put him in your lineup. Bench somebody else. Put Hunt in your lineup. He's going to catch footballs. He keeps Hunt in the end zone. He'll be okay against this Jacksonville defense. On the other side of that ball, I would not play anybody. The Rams, the same thing. I would not start Jared Goff. I'm still loving Bobby Trees, even though the numbers have been down. But I think this will be a game where they'll throw a little bit more. So I do love Bobby Trees there. But the big game is the Seattle game. DFS and full season leagues. Get DK in your lineup. Get Lockett in your lineup. Pay up for us if you're playing DFS because Philly's defense looked horrible. Even they get a little bit of pressure, but they just don't have enough on the back end to hold up. And I love Chris Carson with his play coming back. And then I also like the Panthers with Teddy Bridgewater back. I think there's a lot of good plays there. And then much like I did last week in Houston, I love every part of the Cardinals offense this week. I love Kyler. I still favor Chase Edmonds over Kenyon Drake. If you need a flex play, I love Chase Edmonds. I love Christian Kirk. You might want to fade Hopkins a little bit because of Gilmore, but I love Christian Kirk. I think he can have a really good game. Game to watch is that Atlanta game. It does look like Julio will be out, so you want to fade Matt Ryan, but Calvin Ridley, he's a wide receiver one when Julio doesn't play. So I love that spot there.
All right, and I want some league news that just came out earlier today. The NFL is making all meetings and team activities on Monday and Tuesday are going to be remote because of COVID cases. The Steelers-Baltimore Ravens game has been pushed back to Tuesday from Sunday. There is no line on that game, and was reading here while you were going through the fantasy, James Conner has been placed on the reserve COVID list. There are just a ton of guys in that game that aren't going to play. I'm not sure they're even going to play that game, so we will have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I haven't done the full research on it because it's a lot of reading, and I keep getting bored with it, but I believe if they end up adding Week 18, then they'll add an 8th playoff spot, I believe is how it's going to work.
Yes, that's what they've been talking about doing.
So I would like to deep dive into that a little more to get a better grasp on that. The Steelers believe they've kind of reported with Connor. They've reported they feel like they're going to have some other guys test positive. So that game, I don't know if they're going to try to play it. And then,
well, the Ravens have Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and J.K. Dobbins are all out.
Yeah. And then the Ravens were supposed to play the Cowboys the following Thursday. So then that game will probably get moved to Monday. It's going to be weird. The league is. So now we're going to find out. We're going to find out if the league actually had a plan. If they actually had a plan for what happened, if teams really do start to have breakouts, and we've also seen you're getting into a part of the season now where more teams are traveling. They're out of division games. They're traveling farther across the country. These outbreaks are happening all over the country. You're starting to see this. I believe I read the 49ers are not going to be allowed to play their home games in Santa Clara because of the COVID restrictions the county is putting out. So San Francisco is going to have to figure something out with that. I don't know, man. I don't know if we're going to get this whole season in. I don't know if they're really willing to end the regular season early, or if they're just going to try to keep plugging through. My father-in-law, who I love talking with NFL about, he still loves watching the old PTI show. And something the guys on PTI talked about is the NFL is trying to treat COVID as just another injury. It's the same thing as a high ankle sprain, and they're not taking it as serious as they should be. And it's starting to look like that. You know, like, I don't want to blame the Ravens organization, but how did you not know you had a coach not taking this seriously?
Well, it just goes into, yeah, it's everybody. If there are cracks in the wall, COVID's going to get in. It's that simple.
Yep.
And it takes personal responsibility of everybody involved. And when you have people taking, when they're taking things into their own hands, when they're deciding, oh, well, I can let this slide here, I can let that slide there. When you start letting things slide, you're going to have cases and you're going to have outbreaks.
Yeah, I do think the league is starting. I will say, I believe they're starting to follow the CDC's guidelines more closely because I helped coach my local junior varsity high school bowling team. We had a bowler test positive. Everybody else on the team wears masks. We wear masks all the time. We had a bowler test positive. Nobody else tested positive, but everybody had to lock down for 14 days. The health department actually reached out to us, and I asked, well, if I get a negative test, can I go back to work? Can I go back out there? They said, no. Even with a negative test, you've got to quarantine for 14 days. It seemed like with contact tracing earlier in the season, the NFL was not adhering to that policy, and it seems like they might be adhering to it more now.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how this all shakes out. As case counts go up, can they get the season in before things really, really explode?
Yeah, I mean, and then you wonder, I know that it's bigger rosters, it's more people, but do they have a thought of, okay, this week, we're going to end the season, the teams that are in the playoffs are in the playoffs, here's where we're playing the playoffs, we're going to do an NBA-style bubble, it's what we have to do to get the season in. I just wonder if they've got those kind of plans in place. I mean, I read a thing that the NFL and the NFLPA still haven't even agreed if players will get paid if games don't get played due to COVID. Like, how are you at that point? Like, how are you not past that?
I don't know. The league probably has all this stuff thought of and has looked into it, but they just don't want to let anybody know what those plans are because it gives them leverage against the Players Association and negotiations. Right. I don't know. Like, does that make sense? I'm sure to them it does, but it doesn't. I don't understand how being secretive in this time is going to help anybody.
No, I completely agree with you. I don't know. I just,
especially when fans have a stake in this too. Fans bought tickets. Yeah. Fans want to be in the stands for those games, but a lot of them want to be in there safely.
That's the thing, because as we've talked about, we've yet to hear of any NFL games being a spreader event. We've yet to hear of a concession stand worker testing positive and getting a bunch of people sick. We've yet to hear about, 50 fans that were in the same section and all got sick. We've yet to hear about that. So the stadiums are doing something right. So the team's got to control it on their end because I agree with you. It's better for the game if there are people in the stands, even if it is a limited number of people. It's still better for the product and for the environment, for the players. All the way around, it's better to have people there, but I agree with you. Everybody wants to be safe, but the team's got to take care of themselves first. It wouldn't surprise me if teams that are not in the playoff race, if you start seeing bigger name players opt out for the rest of the season. I don't know. I'm sure there's contractual things in there, but at some point these players are going to be like, dude, we've won 3 games and you can't keep me safe, man. I'm going home.
I don't think they're allowed to. I think that was part of the agreement that if they opted in, they were in.
That sucks for them.
At least I think that was. I don't know the intricacies of it, and we'll see if any of that happens. We're getting pretty close to the end here. We only got 5-6 weeks left before we get to the playoffs. So I think the league's gonna roll the dice and just try and get the season in, and then if they have to do something bubble wise for the playoffs, they'll just do it.
Yeah, like I said, I would hate, not just because I'm a Browns fan. I'm gonna put that out there, not just because of the Browns. I would hate to see this season cut short because there has been so much good and great things happening on football fields. Like, I want to see the Chiefs versus the Seahawks or the Rams or the Packers in the Super Bowl. Like, I want to see that game. I want to see great offense versus great offense. Like, I believe we are. We've talked about it before. Other people are talking about it. I believe we're past the point where a great defense can stop a great offense. I think we're past that now.
I agree.
I want to see. I don't want to see a 10-7 Super Bowl. Like, I want to see high-powered offense versus high-powered offense, and we've got some in the league right now. I want to see, how does Patrick Mahomes finish this season? How does Russ finish this season? How does Kyler Murray finish this season? What do the Dolphins do? What do our Browns do? Like, there are so many compelling storylines. I just hope the league can control it enough to let us see this play out. But on the other hand, I don't want to see anybody get sick and jeopardize their life for my entertainment and enjoyment.
No, we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully we get a good slate of games tomorrow, and that continues through the rest of the season.
So, question for you.
Sure.
I'm personally 0% interested in it, 0% vested in it. Who you got in the fight tonight, Tyson?
I have no idea. Matt said he was getting the fight, so I was like, yeah, I'll come down. We haven't had a chance to hang out in a while because of my vehicle issues. I'm going to watch the spectacle.
There it is.
It's a spectacle. And apparently there's some YouTube persons taking on Nate Robinson of the NBA, which I just, whatever. If you're, as I've been known to say on occasion, if you're going to make it a spectacle, make it a spectacle. So I at least appreciate that they're making it a spectacle.
Yeah, I got to say, Tyson and Jones both looked great in the weigh-in. So
neither one of them's been in a ring in how long?
It's been a while for both of them.
I wouldn't expect. I'm not expecting something that goes very long or is entertaining for very long. I can't see these guys going. You know.
Did you know that all of the Broncos quarterbacks have been deemed on the COVID list, and they have no quarterbacks for their game against the Saints tomorrow?
Sorry, breaking news. I don't know if you saw it. My wife just came out to let me know all of the Broncos quarterbacks have been sent home and placed on the COVID list.
Well, that's interesting.
So I might change my pick. I might not take the Broncos.
Are they even going to play that game now?
Yeah, I have no idea. I guess because at this point you couldn't go out and sign somebody because they have to quarantine before they can come to the facility.
Well, I guess this is a test of the NFL's COVID policies. We knew this was a possibility that an entire position group could be out with COVID, and what then?
Yeah, I guess so far Driscoll is the only one that's tested positive, but the rest have been sent home due to the contact tracing. So I don't know.
They have to be segregated from everybody. Interesting. Yep. Well, take away your Denver bets. Take all of your Denver bets away.
It's now 100,000% you don't bet on that game.
Yes, or if you can get, New Orleans at 6 right now is a steal.
That's true too. That may be a lock now.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens. There'll be more to come.
The Broncos punter. What a game.
Oh, man, that could turn out. Who knows what's going to happen in that game now? I can't even imagine.
No, but it's compelling. It's one compelling NFL storyline, and I love it. I love the NFL. I love the NBA. Why can't Major League Baseball figure out how to make their shit exciting? Ah.
Wow. Well, Jimmy, I'm sure you'll be watching tomorrow. I will be watching tomorrow. We hope everybody out there watches, wins some money, stays out of a cast. Jimmy, thank you for joining me.
No place else I'd rather be, brother.
Alrighty, everybody else enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend. We will be back next week with another run of picks.
Every action has a repercussion. Lyrical bullets don't make me